welcome to another deep dive. And today we're really going deep
Oh, yeah.
into the amazing world of the human brain.
Yeah, it's going to be fascinating, this one.
We're going to be pulling from a document called The Science of Your Brain.
Great document, yeah.
It is, yeah, it's really fascinating.
Oh,
And it's a lot of stuff we've, talked about on the show before.
All right.
But it's always good to have a nice little refresher
Yeah.
and go into some more detail about
It's a deep dive, as you say.
It is a deep dive.
Yeah.
Exactly. So we're going to be talking about things like optimizing memory, how to keep your brain sharp as you age.
I need that personally.
Yeah, me too. And
Everyone does.
and even really interesting stuff like how love and grief can shape your brain.
Yeah, some of the really powerful emotions that we experience.
Exactly.
Oh.
Yeah. And
Yeah.
it's amazing how this document really connects cutting edge research with real life examples. They actually talk about Oprah Winfrey at one point.
I love her.
I know, right?
Ah.
And even memory athletes and how they've applied some of this stuff.
Mm-hmm.
So it's really cool how it combines the hardcore science
Yeah.
with
Real world
the
stuff.
real world application. Yeah.
Yeah.
So one of the things that really jumped out at me right away was how our beliefs can actually shape the physical structure of our brains.
Yeah, that's the whole idea of neuroplasticity.
Right.
This is the idea that your brain, isn't just this fixed thing.
Right.
It's actually constantly changing, constantly adapting
Mm-hmm.
based on your experiences, based on your thoughts, the things that you're exposed to. And
Yeah. And even, the stories that we tell ourselves can have a huge impact on that rewiring.
huge impact, absolutely.
So it's almost like if
Oh,
you're
yeah.
constantly feeding yourself negative self-talk, you're basically reinforcing those pathways in the brain
Right. Exactly.
that keep those negative thoughts kind of swirling around.
That's exactly right. Yeah, you're strengthening those connections. The
Yeah.
more you repeat those patterns, the stronger they become.
Okay, so the opposite must also be true, right?
Absolutely. Yeah, it's a two-way street.
Like if we focus on positive, empowering beliefs,
Hmm.
we can actually strengthen those connections
Yes.
associated with like resilience and problem solving and all
I
those
mean,
good things.
absolutely. So it's not just about eliminating the negative, it's about actively cultivating the positive.
Yeah, that's a really powerful concept.
Yeah,
It's like you're taking control of the narrative in your own head
I like that.
Yeah.
Taking control. Yeah,
and rewiring it for success, essentially.
I love that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, and speaking of building a stronger brain,
Okay.
I thought this was really interesting
Mm.
how the document talks about the benefits of learning throughout your life.
Oh, yeah.
Like it's not just about acquiring knowledge, it actually physically changes your brain.
Yeah, it's like it's creating new connections, like literally wiring new circuits in your brain.
Yeah, they call them synaptic connections, right?
Synaptic connections, exactly. Yeah. These are like the bridges between your brain cells that allow them to communicate.
So if you're not learning, you're not building those bridges.
Yeah, you're not building those bridges, and the existing ones can weaken over time.
Okay, so learning is like a workout for your brain.
Absolutely. It's like going to the gym for your brain.
It's creating more roads and highways for information to travel on.
Love that analogy.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, and there's actual research from frontiers in human neuroscience
Mm-hmm.
that shows that staying mentally active
Yeah,
through learning can actually protect against cognitive decline as we age.
it can. It's one of the best things you can do
Yeah.
to keep your brain sharp as you get older.
So like picking up a new hobby, learning a new language, things like that.
Absolutely. Those are great examples.
It's not just fun. It's actually an investment in your brain health.
It's an investment. Exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And they even talk about how like people who pick up new things, later in life
Mm-hmm.
often see improvements in their mental agility
Yes, and never too
and
late.
overall well-being.
Start learning.
It's never too late. Exactly.
Yeah.
And so now that we're talking about, maintaining brain health as we age,
Okay.
I think it's important to talk about something that can be a little bit scary.
Yeah.
And that's dementia and Alzheimer's disease.
Right. Those are big ones.
Yeah. And I thought the document did a really good job of explaining these really complex
He
conditions.
does.
Like they get into the science behind it.
Yeah.
They talk about things like amyloid plaques and tau tangles.
Those are the two big culprits.
Yeah. Which
Uh-huh.
I'll be honest, I needed a little bit of a refresher on.
Yeah, it can be a little complicated, but let me try to simplify it.
Okay. Yeah. Because I'm sure some of our listeners might be in the same boat.
Sure.
Just
Oh,
like,
imagine your brain cells are like little bustling cities, right? With information constantly flowing in and out.
okay, I like that analogy.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And so amyloid plaques, those are like clumps of debris that build up outside these cities,
Mm-hmm.
making it harder for information to get in and out.
It's like blocking the roads into the city.
Exactly. It's like creating roadblocks.
Yeah,
And then you've
right.
got tau tangles. Those are like internal traffic jams within the cities themselves, further disrupting communication.
So it's like a combination of like blockades and internal gridlock.
Yes, exactly.
Yeah.
And so as those disruptions accumulate over time, that's when you start to see the cognitive decline.
That makes a lot of sense.
Yeah.
Yeah, but the document also offers some hope, right?
Oh, absolutely. Yeah, it's not all doom and gloom.
Yeah.
While genetics does play a role,
Mm-hmm.
the document really emphasizes that lifestyle choices can significantly impact brain health.
Okay, so it's not a foregone conclusion.
No, not at all.
If you have a family history,
No, you can be proactive.
you can still take steps
Absolutely.
to protect your brain.
Yeah, they highlight stories of individuals who, even with a family history of Alzheimer's, have made changes to their diet, exercise routines, stress management, and have seen positive results.
So even though we can't control our genes,
Right.
there's a lot we can do to take care of our brains.
Absolutely. It's like taking care of your car.
Yeah.
You know, you might not be able to prevent every issue, but regular maintenance can help it run smoothly for much longer.
I like that, yeah.
Yeah.
So, speaking of things we can't control,
Okay.
let's dive into the world of memory.
Oh, yeah. One of my favorite topics.
This document breaks down the whole process of how memories are formed and stored in the brain.
Fascinating stuff.
Yeah, it's really amazing.
Yeah.
And one of the coolest parts for me was learning about the hippocampus,
The hippocampus. Yeah.
which acts like a memory coordinator in the brain.
It's like the brain's librarian.
Yeah.
Organizing and filing away all those memories.
And then there's this technique called the memory palace. Have you heard of that?
Oh, yeah. The memory palace. It's an ancient technique,
Yeah.
but it's still incredibly effective today.
It involves, like, visualizing a familiar space, like your home,
Mm-hmm.
and mentally placing information you want to remember within that space.
Exactly. You create a mental map.
Yeah.
And the more vivid and detailed the image, the better you'll remember it.
And they even talk about memory athletes
Oh, yeah.
who use this technique to do these incredible feats,
Incredible feats. It's amazing what they can do.
like memorizing the order of cards in multiple decks.
I can barely remember what I had for breakfast.
Me neither.
Yeah.
So, but it really highlights the potential we all have
We do.
to improve our memory skills.
Absolutely. It's not just about innate ability.
Right.
It's about understanding how your memory works and using techniques that leverage those processes.
Okay, so I'm definitely going to try the memory palace technique.
You should. It's really fun.
I'm going to fill my childhood home with, like, grocery lists and to-do lists.
There you go.
Yeah. And, but beyond memory, this document is packed with practical tips on how to optimize your brain in general.
It is. It's like a toolkit
Yeah.
for a sharper mind.
Exactly. And one of the first tools in that toolkit is exercise.
Oh, yeah. Exercise is crucial.
They specifically highlight aerobic exercise, which gets your heart rate up and increases blood flow to the brain.
Exactly. And they even share a story of a professional who completely overcame brain fog just by incorporating morning runs into their routine.
So simple, but so effective.
It's like hitting the reset button for your brain.
Yeah, and I love how they explain how exercise stimulates the production of BDNF,
BDNF, yeah.
which is basically like fertilizer for your brain.
It is. It helps brain cells grow and thrive.
So it's not just about physical fitness, it's about creating a more fertile environment for your brain.
Absolutely. I love that.
Yeah, and speaking of creating a fertile environment,
Yeah.
the document also talks about the importance of language learning
Oh, yeah. That's a great one.
as a way to strengthen your brain.
It challenges your brain in so many ways.
Yeah, they talk about how it engages multiple areas of the brain, like your memory, your cognitive flexibility, even your attention span.
Right. It's a full brain workout.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And they even mention polyglots.
Those amazing people who speak multiple languages,
Yeah.
they often have incredible mental agility.
It's like giving your brain a serious upgrade.
It is. It's like upgrading your mental software.
Yeah, and research suggests that multilingual individuals tend to have denser gray matter, which is the part of the brain responsible for processing information.
Exactly. And more interconnected neural networks.
So it's like you're building more connections and making your brain more efficient.
Absolutely. You're optimizing your brain for learning and processing.
Okay, so I'm convinced I need to learn a new language.
It's a great investment.
Yeah, and along with exercise and language learning, the document also emphasizes the role of nutrition in brain health.
Oh, yeah. Food is fuel.
They're big fans of the Mediterranean
It's
diet.
a Mediterranean diet. It's a brain-boosting powerhouse.
Yeah, with all those fruits, vegetables, whole grains, healthy fats, and lean protein.
Right, and they even share a real-life example of someone who saw a dramatic improvement in their focus and energy levels just by switching to this way of eating.
So it's not just about what we put into our bodies for physical health. It's about feeding our brains too.
Absolutely. Your brain needs the right nutrients to function at its best.
Yeah, and they point out that the Mediterranean diet is rich in antioxidants, omega-3 fatty acids, and other essential nutrients that support brain function.
Right. It's like giving your brain a gourmet meal.
I like that, a gourmet meal for your brain.
Yeah.
And now, along with what we put into our bodies, the document also stresses the importance of what we often don't get enough of: sleep.
Sleep. So important.
We all know we need it, but they really drive home how crucial it is for brain health.
Absolutely. It's not just about resting your body. Yeah. It's about giving your brain time to consolidate memories, clear out waste products, and recharge for the day ahead.
And they even share this compelling story of an entrepreneur who was chronically sleep deprived
Mm-hmm.
and struggling with brain fog and difficulty focusing.
Yeah, sleep deprivation can really take a toll.
But after they made a conscious effort to prioritize sleep,
Mm-hmm.
they experienced a remarkable improvement in their cognitive function.
It's amazing what a good night's sleep can do.
Yeah, so sleep isn't a luxury. It's essential for a healthy and sharp mind.
It's an investment.
It is, yeah, an investment in your brain.
Yeah.
So we've covered exercise, language learning, diet, and sleep,
All the essentials.
all incredibly important for brain health. But before we wrap up this part of our deep dive,
Okay.
there's one more crucial element: social connection.
Oh, yeah, that's a big one.
They emphasize that social connection isn't just good for our emotional well-being.
You're right.
It plays a vital role in maintaining cognitive function.
It does. It keeps your brain active and engaged.
Yeah, and they share examples of how seniors who are actively engaged in their communities participate in social activities and maintain strong relationships,
Yeah.
often show better cognitive function and a reduced risk of cognitive decline.
That's right. Social interaction stimulates those areas of the brain involved in memory, attention, and language processing.
So spending time with friends and family, engaging in meaningful conversations, being part of a community,
Yeah.
it's not just good for the soul, it's good for the brain.
It is. It's like a workout for your social brain.
I like that.
Yeah.
So to wrap up this first part of our deep dive,
Boy.
I want to share one more fascinating insight from the document.
Okay, I'm all ears.
They recommend a specific morning routine
A morning routine. Okay.
that's designed to optimize your brain for the day ahead.
I love a good morning routine.
Yeah. So they suggest starting your day with hydration,
Hydration, important.
getting some light exercise to boost blood flow,
Mm-hmm.
and engaging in some form of mental stimulation.
Like a puzzle or something.
Yeah, like a crossword puzzle or reading something challenging.
Okay.
And they back it up with examples of successful individuals who credit their morning routines
Mm-hmm.
for their sharp thinking and productivity.
So it's like setting yourself up for success.
Exactly. So maybe it's time to ditch the mindless scrolling
Yeah, put the phone down.
and start the day with a brain-boosting routine.
I love it.
So we've covered a lot of ground already,
We have.
but there's so much more to discover.
There is.
We're just getting started.
Oh, yeah. This is just the tip of the iceberg.
So stay tuned for part 2 of our deep dive into the science of your brain.
Can't wait. Welcome back to the deep dive. You know, last time we were talking about all the amazing things your brain can do.
Yeah, we really went deep into like how it adapts and changes throughout life.
And all the things you can do to, like, support it.
Yeah, everything from like positive thinking
Right.
to that memory palace technique,
Mm-hmm.
even how exercise and diet can actually boost your brain power.
Absolutely.
So this time we're going to switch gears a bit
Okay.
and talk about some of the things that might be, holding your brain back.
Yeah, those brain power blockers.
Exactly, like glitches in the system that we need to fix.
You gotta optimize.
Yeah, and I gotta say, the document does not hold back.
Oh, no.
It calls out one of the biggest culprits in our modern world:
Let me guess.
excessive screen time.
Screen time. Yep.
Guilty as charged.
I think we're all a little guilty of that one.
Yeah, I mean, we spend so much time on our devices these days.
It's true.
And it's not all bad, but
But it can have its downsides.
it can definitely take a toll on our brains.
Yeah.
They talk about something called cognitive fatigue,
Oh,
where your
yeah.
brain just feels drained.
Fried.
Yeah, and you can't
It's
focus.
like mental exhaustion.
Exactly.
And they actually share this story of a professional
Mm-hmm.
who was constantly feeling mentally exhausted,
Right.
even though they were getting enough sleep.
Oh, interesting.
It turned out all the screen time for work and leisure was just overloading their brain.
So what did they do?
Well, they started setting limits on their
Yeah.
device use,
Makes sense.
like designating specific times for checking social media
Right.
and creating tech-free zones in their home.
I like that. Tech-free zones.
And it made a huge difference.
Yeah.
They said they felt so much more focused and energized.
Wow. So sometimes the simplest solutions are the best.
Often are.
Yeah. Just give your brain a break
He needs it.
from all that stimulation.
Absolutely.
Okay, so screen time, that's a big one. But the document also highlights the impact of chronic stress.
Ah, yes, stress. The silent killer.
And we don't always think of stress as a brain issue.
Right, we think of it as emotional.
Yeah, but it actually has a huge impact on our brains.
Huge.
They explain how chronic stress can trigger the release of hormones like cortisol.
Cortisol, the stress hormone.
And over time, that can actually damage brain cells
You can.
and impair cognitive function.
Yeah, especially in the hippocampus.
Right, which is so important for memory.
Absolutely.
It's like stress is slowly eating away at our brain power.
That's a good way to put it.
And they have this really interesting example of an executive who was having trouble with their memory and couldn't make decisions.
Oh, wow.
And it turned out their high-pressure job and all the stress was taking a toll on their brain.
So what did they do?
Well, they started doing things like mindfulness
Mindfulness, good one.
and yoga.
Stress reduction techniques.
Exactly, and they actually saw a big improvement
That's great.
in mental clarity.
So taking care of your mental and emotional well-being is just as important as physical health.
For your brain, absolutely.
Okay, so we've talked about screen time and stress,
These are big ones.
but there's another biggie we have to address.
What's that?
Social media.
Social media, the double-edged sword.
It can be great for connecting with people, staying informed,
Right.
but it can also be addictive
Very addictive.
and not so good for our brains.
They talk about how all the notifications and
Yeah.
the scrolling and the dopamine hits.
It's designed to keep you hooked,
It is. It creates
Yeah.
these feedback loops in our brains.
and it can be hard to break free.
Very hard.
And research suggests that too much social media
Mm-hmm.
can actually shrink the gray matter
The gray matter.
in certain areas of the brain.
Yeah, the areas responsible for attention and memory.
So it's literally affecting the physical structure of our brains.
It can, and they even share a story of someone
Yeah.
who realized their social media habit
Yeah.
was making them anxious and unable to focus.
Yeah, I could see that happening.
So they decided to limit their usage
Good for them.
and be more intentional about when they engaged with
It's
it.
helped.
It did. They said they felt much clearer and calmer.
So it's not about giving up social media entirely.
No, it's about using it mindfully. Yeah, and being aware of how it might be affecting you.
Exactly. Finding a healthy balance.
Okay. So we've talked about some of the bad habits. Now let's talk about some good ones,
Okay, I like this part.
like mindfulness,
Mindfulness. Yeah, it's been getting a lot of attention lately.
for good reason.
It seems to have a lot of benefits.
It does, and they explain how it works in the brain.
Oh, I'm curious to hear this.
So mindfulness is basically about paying attention to the present moment without judgment.
Without judgment, that's key.
Yeah, so whether you're focusing on your breath
Right.
or your senses or just observing your thoughts and feelings,
Yeah,
it's about being present.
I like that.
And they say that mindfulness practices can reduce stress,
Yep,
improve focus, and even help you regulate your emotions.
that's impressive.
And there's actual research to back it up.
Really?
Studies have shown that mindfulness can increase gray matter density in
Right.
areas of the brain associated with attention, learning, and memory.
So it's like a workout for your brain.
It is. It's training your mind to be more present and focused.
I like that analogy.
And they even share examples
Oh, okay.
of busy people who have incorporated mindfulness into their lives.
Like who?
Executives, parents, all sorts of people.
And it's helped them.
Yeah, they say they feel calmer, more focused, and just overall better.
That's great.
So I'm definitely adding mindfulness to my to-do list.
Me too. It seems like a simple but powerful tool.
Yeah, and speaking of the connection between our minds and bodies,
Okay.
the document goes into how emotions
Hmm.
can actually affect our brain function.
Emotions, yeah, they can be powerful.
They are, and they explain how emotions trigger biochemical responses in the brain
Okay.
that can affect everything,
Everything.
from our cognitive abilities
Wow.
to our physical health.
So our emotions are literally affecting our brains.
They are, and they specifically highlight the impact of chronic stress
Yeah.
on the hippocampus.
Right, that memory center.
Yet chronic stress can actually shrink the hippocampus.
Shrunk it.
Yeah, leading to memory problems.
That's scary.
It is, and they share a story of
Oh,
someone
God.
who experienced temporary cognitive impairment.
Temporary.
Yeah,
Okay.
because of intense emotional stress.
Oh, wow.
Their memory and focus were really bad,
Yeah.
but as they worked through their emotional issues,
Mm.
their brain function gradually came back.
So there's hope.
There is. It shows how important it is to take care of our emotional well-being.
For our brains.
For our brains, exactly.
And speaking of emotional well-being,
Yes.
the document also explores love and grief.
Oh, wow. Two of the most powerful human experiences.
They really go deep.
They do, and they start with love.
Love, okay.
They talk about all the neurological changes that happen
Mhm.
when we experience love,
Like what?
like the release of hormones, like dopamine and oxytocin.
To feel good hormones.
Exactly. They're associated with pleasure and bonding.
Makes sense.
And they even mention specific brain regions,
Okay.
like the VTA and the caudate nucleus.
A what?
They're part of the brain's reward system,
Okay.
and they light up when we experience love.
So love literally lights up our brains.
It does, and they share a story of a couple
Mm.
who have been together for a long time,
Mm-hmm.
and they talk about how their love for each other
Yeah.
has helped them through tough times.
Love is powerful.
It is. It's like love strengthens those neural pathways
Mm.
associated with resilience and well-being.
So love is good for the brain.
It is, and then they talk about grief.
Grief, that's a tough one.
It is, and they explain how it can have a big impact on the brain,
Yeah, I can imagine.
especially in the amygdala.
The amygdala, that's the emotional center, right?
Yeah, and the hippocampus, which is important for memory.
Right.
They say that in the early stages of grief,
Mm-hmm.
it's common to have trouble concentrating,
Yeah.
remembering things, making decisions.
Your brain is just not functioning properly.
Right. It's overloaded with emotion.
So grief can actually impair cognitive function.
It can. But the good news is
Okay.
that the brain can heal.
It can.
Yeah, it's adaptable.
That's good to know.
And they share a story of someone
Mhm.
who lost someone close to them.
Ah,
But eventually, they started to feel better,
yeah.
and their brain fog lifted.
That's amazing.
And they were able to find joy again.
So even in the face of grief, our brains can recover.
They can, and it highlights the importance of allowing ourselves to grieve,
Mhm.
seeking support when we need it,
Yeah.
and trusting that our brains will heal over time.
That's a powerful message.
It is. And now, in the final part of our deep dive,
Okay.
we're going to explore what all of this means for you
For me. Okay.
and how you can use this knowledge to optimize your brain health
I'm ready.
and create a more resilient mind.
Bring it on.
All right, welcome back to the deep dive.
Back for more brain-boosting goodness.
Exactly. So we've explored a lot in this deep dive into the science of your brain,
Yeah, we've covered so much ground.
from neuroplasticity to memory mastery,
Mm.
even the connection between our emotions and how our brains work.
It's all connected.
It really is. And we've talked about some not so great habits
Right, those brain power blockers.
and some really positive practices to help us build a more resilient mind.
So now what? What do we do with all this information?
Well, that's what we're going to focus on today.
Okay, I'm ready.
We're going to take everything we've learned and figure out how we can actually apply it
Actionable steps.
to optimize our brain health and unlock its full potential.
Let's do it.
So it's not about making huge changes all at once.
Right, small steps.
It's about incorporating those small, sustainable changes
sustainable, that's key.
that over time will make a big difference.
I like that.
And a good place to start is by addressing those habits that might be draining our brain power.
Okay, so back to those brain power blockers.
Yeah, like that excessive screen time we talked about.
Right, and social media overload?
It's about setting some limits.
Limits, yeah.
Maybe designate specific times for social media
Okay.
or create those tech-free zones in your home.
Tech-free zones, I like that.
Just give your brain a break from all the digital noise.
It needs it.
And on the flip side, let's talk about those brain-boosting activities,
Yeah, the good stuff.
like exercise.
Exercise, always a good one.
Remember that story about the professional who beat brain fog with morning runs?
Yeah, inspiring.
We don't have to run marathons.
Right, just get moving.
Even a short walk can make a difference.
Gets the blood flowing.
Exactly. And what about language learning?
Language learning, that's a brain workout.
That challenges our brains in so many ways.
Makes new connections.
And it's fun.
It is.
So I'm dusting off my old Spanish textbook.
Good for you.
And now let's talk about food.
Food, fuel for the brain.
We talked about the Mediterranean diet.
The brain-boosting powerhouse.
All those fruits and veggies, healthy fats, lean protein.
Right, and it's delicious.
It is. And remember that example of the person who felt so much better after switching to a Mediterranean-style diet?
Yeah, their focus and energy went way up.
So maybe it's time to swap those chips for some blueberries.
Or walnuts.
And don't forget about sleep.
Sleep, the ultimate brain reset.
Our brains need that time to consolidate memories.
And clear out the waste.
And recharge for the next day.
Like hitting the refresh button.
Exactly. So aim for those 7 to 8 hours of quality sleep.
Quality sleep, important.
It's an investment in your brain health.
And how about social connection?
Oh, that's a big one.
We're social creatures.
We are, and those connections help keep our brains sharp.
Especially as we age.
So let's make time for friends and family.
Meaningful conversations.
And community involvement.
It all makes a difference.
And last but not least, mindfulness.
Mindfulness, that quiet time.
Even a few minutes a day can make a difference.
Breathing exercises, meditation.
Whatever works for you.
Just be consistent.
And you'll notice the benefits.
Calmer, more focused.
More resilient.
It's been an amazing journey, this deep dive.
It really has.
We've learned so much.
About this incredible organ we call the brain.
And its amazing potential.
And how we can take care of it.
Throughout our lives.
So, what small step will you take today?
To give your brain a boost.
Will you try a new recipe, go for a walk, learn a new word in Spanish?
The possibilities are endless.
The power is in your hands.
Your brain will thank you.
Thanks for joining us on this deep dive into the science of your brain.